Okay. All righty. Welcome back, Carson.
Yep.
Quick trip.
Quick weekend getaway.
Quick trip to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
So welcome, Best Boys Center Ice podcast. It is the 25th of February.
Real quick and we'll be all good.
We are live on Facebook. We love for you to join us. You can just go to Facebook Live right now on my Facebook or Carson's Facebook and join in the conversation. Let us know as we get into not the second half of the season, but it's always after the All-Star game. They always say it's the second half of the season. So it's post Four Nations. And yes, I'm bragging. I've got that Canadian hat out there for everybody to see. And before we get started, just going to give our shout outs to everybody joining us. If you're going to join us tonight on Facebook Live, also the Refocused Radio Network, which you can see and hear the podcast. All of our podcasts that we've done actually over the last year and a half are on there on the Best Boys Center Ice podcast on the Refocused Radio Network, along with Shemaya Reed and the I Am Refocused Radio show and podcast. And Rudy Campos Jr., who's he's just as busy. You know, he's got college basketball and he's got the NBA, NFL, the tail end of the NFL, and Major League Baseball now starting, spring training starting. So, you know, he's going to be knee deep in the Texas Rangers. And I don't know if he's a Houston Astros fan or not, but I know he talks.
Still Texas baseball.
So you can sweep the league on the Refocus Radio Network. And right now, we're going to wrap up the Four Nations because when we went on last week, it was pre the finals.
Yep.
So let's wrap that up first, and then we'll go into our normal. So to me, and I'm going to say this before you get started because I know you got a lot to say about it. To me, that wasn't an all-star game. That was a real tournament because you look at the emotions.
It was competitive.
You look at the emotions of the first Canadian-American game where all the fights were, the three fights. You look at the emotion of the overtime win by the Canadians. You can't tell me that would happen in a regular all-star game.
No.
And it's just everybody is praising the NHL from all over the other North American sports, or the other three North American sports, are praising the NHL for what they did. And in my mind, the NBA, because I don't know if you can do Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is close because the All-Star game actually means something. The winner of the All-Star game gets home field in the World Series, but it's still nothing like this. And forget the NFL Pro Bowl. It's nothing. The NFL and the NBA need to take a look at this in some form or fashion. They may not be able to do a Four Nations, but they got to look at some kind of a tournament.
Competitive.
Yeah, because it's not. And that game between the Canadians and the Americans last Thursday. So last Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday night.
Yeah, was incredible. Up and down emotion. You felt it in both Montreal and in Boston. You felt though. I think those are the two perfect venues. For these games. And you know, the Americans to my opinion, the Americans outplayed the Canadians. Like really, for the majority of the game, they outplayed them. But it was just that in overtime, the guy who we were all complaining about in net, Binghamton, came up with some amazing saves. Americans should have won that game in overtime with 2 or 3 shots that they had that were stopped. But he did
kept him in it.
In 2019
when the Blues
when the Blues won the Stanley Cup, he kept them in
that same building too.
In that same building, he kept them in, and then, of course, lo and behold, Connor McDavid in front of the net all alone, like Austin Matthews went the wrong way. Can't remember who else went. You don't leave Connor McDavid all alone in the slot, and he buried it. Team Canada wins 3-2.
I mean, great game. I said it right as soon as it was over. The best team in the tournament did not win. Canada, in my opinion, was not all that awesome.
No.
Really, They weren't.
No.
They didn't play as great as I thought they would, and they won. They got out of there like I don't want to say luckily, but they got out of there and won.
No,
And
you're right. The Americans
the
were
Americans should have won. The
Yeah.
Americans were the best team in the tournament the whole time. Even in that championship game, the Americans were the best team. The first time those two teams played each other, the Americans were the better team. It's just those moments, those saves that Bennington made in overtime, McDavid being all alone after really he played awful that whole game.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like he was a step behind the whole time. And finally he stepped up and made that play. Yeah, I mean, what a moment there to win that game, and meant a lot for all those guys, and hurt a lot for all the guys that didn't win that game on the side of the United States. They go back home to their teams, their respective NHL teams, and then they don't come back a champion to that. And yeah, bad read on that one by Matthews. He turned the wrong way, left McDavid all by himself. That makes him 0-7 now in like elimination or game 7 games in his career, which doesn't surprise me. He shouldn't have been the captain of that team. I don't like to really hate on people, but something about him. He's just not a leader. He's not.
No, he just.
You know who I was impressed with before we go on about that was Slavin.
Slavin. Oh man, he was a defensive juggernaut.
Like he should be winning. He should, if the Norris were really about being the best defensive defenseman, he would be winning.
How many times did he deflect pucks and get in the way of a sure Canadian goal?
Even though he wouldn't have been on the score sheet. Had the Americans won that game, he should have been the star of the game. Because he took away a lot of grade A opportunity. It seemed like every time he was on the ice, he was taking away like a golden chance just by being there.
Yep.
But going back on the Matthews thing, I just don't think he was playing like a captain. Even interviewed about it afterwards.
He was pretty much non-existent.
Except he had those like 1 or 2 chances in overtime.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, he was invisible the whole time. And then after that, when he was interviewed about it, he kind of just gave like like they kind of basically analyzed the play for him, and he was like, "Sure."
Yeah.
But you've lost so many games like that in elimination. Like the other guy on your team, on their same Toronto Maple Leafs, same guy, and completely different. Like 2 different players, but Marner sets up that beautiful goal.
Oh yeah,
great.
Marner
pass.
had a great
he
tournament.
Played great. It makes you wonder. Matthews, maybe you see a problem in Toronto. Is Marner going to go elsewhere? But yeah, great game overall. Just Canadians squeaked that one out by the skin of their teeth, because I think had that shot not gone in, I couldn't see the Americans not winning that game.
Yeah,
they were all over it from the very beginning, and it was a frenzy, great atmosphere, great tournament, great job by the NHL, and felt weird getting back into the NHL again after that. Like it felt like it was a step down.
Yeah, it did feel it felt weird, especially for the Oilers. Anyways, they played 2 noontime games on Saturday and Sunday. We'll get into that.
Which was crazy that in the first place. I mean, it was cool. Like you don't have that longer break without hockey, but those guys just finished playing such a spirited game, and they only get 1 day off between that and another game, and a lot of them are playing in the afternoon. So great. Hats off to the NHL. This was a fun tournament. I'm excited for the World Cup. Obviously, the Olympics are coming back next year, so Four Nations most likely, maybe for now, won't happen for a while anymore. So because of the World Cup coming around and the Olympics, it's international hockey is just starting up with the NHL back in it again. So it's going to be.
We can just hope that the Four Nations tournament.
Yeah, and even then, it would be cool if they, instead of the Four Nations, they expanded a little bit. Having maybe like a continental team as well that can be in there, like featuring some of the guys like
you can have a Scandinavian team with Sweden and Finland, and what do you want to call it? A European team with Germany and and France and some of the other players
that didn't
Slovakia,
get to play.
whatever you want to call it.
But yeah, hats off to the NHL. They definitely raised the bar for the sports, and there are a lot of people from other sports and that were tuning in. This game between the U.S. and Canada, that final was the most viewed international hockey game. I think they said, if I'm not mistaken, ever. Like the highest viewed international non-Olympic game ever. And even after that, some of the games this weekend, Got a lot of views as well. Over 1 million views for some of the weekend games on ESPN, which is a lot for the NHL to get on a Saturday afternoon when there's other sports going on. They still get. So hats off to the league. This is just a start for hockey. They're finally starting to move up in the ranks, and people are understanding how great the sport is, and are starting to get into watching it, which is great because once you get onto it, you're hooked, and it's hard to say you don't love it because it's so action packed. Despite the scoring might not be as high, it's every turn of the ice. It's just fast paced back and forth action. And you can go minutes and minutes without a whistle, and it's just them going back and forth.
And you see it on TV how fast it is. In person.
It's even faster.
And you got to be really, well, Carson and I have been watching hockey for so long, we're used to it, but it's so much faster.
It's hard at the beginning to get in with it because it is so fast, and it's hard to see the puck sometimes and where it's going. But once you kind of just get into it and to see the passion of it, and then you get into the game, it's so fun to watch. It's the best sport to watch, both live and on TV. It's just such a great viewing experience both ways because, on TV you get the excitement of the commentators and the crowd noise is loud because of the microphone. But then you go in person and everything is amplified by 10. So you hear the fans when the goal scored. You hear the communication on the ice because you don't hear the commentary. So you hear them talking back and forth, the referees, the whistles.
Been to American Airlines Center in Dallas and, of course, T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. Besides the old Edmonton Northlands Coliseum, my favorite venues, because Dallas, we say it all the time, Dallas is probably the best venue and the best fans, the core of fans.
Dallas is such a good sports town. They got a lot of sports teams to cheer for, and it's a sports rooted city, and it makes it fun. In Vegas, nothing's better than Vegas.
Well, Vegas does it up better. I'm going to say they put on a show better than anybody.
Oh yeah.
And when I went there in October or in December, I'm sorry, I wanted to see that opening more at the game, but that opening is incredible. So we're in San Antonio,
even just catch a NHL game somewhere because
I don't care where you're at.
It's a great experience, and it's something that you'll never forget.
Okay, well, speaking of the NHL, after the Four Nations, we're going to get going with the week that was, or the 2 games that was for the Penguins and the Oilers. I'll start and get that bad taste out of my mouth.
To give it to me.
To give it to you, to have you take it from there. All right, so the Oilers right now, as we stand, are 34-19-4, second place in the Pacific, 2 points back of Vegas, and they've got a game in hand on Vegas. And that's because the Oilers came back from a game that when you looked at it in Philly was on paper the Oilers. But it didn't turn out that way. Goaltending and defense was suspect.
Was Stu in net that night?
Stu was in net against Philly, and Pick was in net against Washington. So the Oilers wound up losing to Philadelphia 6-3, a game that honestly, I don't say this very much, that the Oilers should not have lost, because that's a team that's farther down in the Eastern Conference. And then they go into Washington, and again, they looked good. They scored the first goal in both games. But they just fall apart, and it was bad defensive play. And I hate to say it because I love Stu Skinner and I love Pickard. Terrible goaltending.
Yeah.
And I know it was the highlight of the game in Washington was Ovi getting a hat trick. And that's the other team. And I think that was the highlight. I was excited to see him get a hat trick. The Oilers,
they got ripped apart.
They are, I think, well, in 2 games, they gave up 13 goals. And this is a team that doesn't give up that many, and they've got to turn things around because they've got a tough stretch, as I'll mention here in a bit. But I really think, and I thought about this a lot over the last couple of days since the Sunday game against Washington, the Oilers need that top-notch goaltender.
Yes, they do.
Whether it's like a veteran like John Gibson, they need that guy who maybe he's not as good as the John Gibson that won the Stanley Cup.
Still good.
But he's still good, and he's that veteran guy that he's not going to get shaken if he lets in a bad goal. Stuart Skinner gets shaken, Pick gets shaken, but the defense, they have to also shore up the defense with another quality.
Bouchard, he's been
terrible this year. He's been the Darnell Nurse this year. defensively, and even offensively,
he hasn't been
himself. So what do? Do you take away the offense and trade him for a guy that can match up?
I think
better
you
on
might,
defense.
You might think about it because he's definitely still work value. You'll still get good pieces for him, but
I hate to say it, but
I think he just do you maybe give him, I don't know, you give him to the end of the year, and I think you try to maybe explore some options if he's still playing this way, because you can't be having that every night where it seems like every time like a goal is he's on the ice for it,
and he's lazy about getting back. Sometimes he's just not thinking properly defensively. I just think that the Oilers, if they want to get back to the Stanley Cup final, they want to win the Stanley Cup.
They're not going to do it this way.
They're not going to do it this way. They can't just rely on the offense. They have to shore up the defense. The defense last year was great. Good. This year it's very suspect, and the goaltending lately. I have. If you ask me point blank, which of the two, I'd keep Pickard, and I would either you trade him away, or you put him in Bakersfield. You put Stu in Bakersfield, but Pickard to me is the better backup.
Yeah, he's the better option. Right?
Yeah, so that's
his record's been phenomenal.
And I know there's I got Doug Morehouse on here watching us, and Doug's an Oiler fan. What do? You got to do something now. You can't wait till the end of the season, or you're going to get bypassed,
get shredded apart by other teams. Just so that can score.
The trade deadline is coming up,
March 7th. Yeah.
And so
2 weeks.
I just think that the Oilers management needs to make the tough decision.
Bowman today, when I don't know if like how legit this is, but I saw somewhere like they'd asked him about all that stuff and like made it clear he's not going to trade Skinner or Pickard away. He's confident in what they're doing. So if he is, then I hate to say it, but if he is there, then they're not going to go anywhere.
They're not going to.
They can't be hanging with these teams that are going to be scoring a lot, and they can't stop it.
So at least if he's not going to look at a goaltender, he's got to look at getting a better Ekholm type defenseman, because Ekholm is the only good, solid 100% game to game defensive guy. Yep. And Ekholm can score too. He can set things up. So.
I was surprised about that, to be honest, coming out of the break from you guys.
Yeah,
I figured that
I was totally.
I figured
surprised.
The Philly game was going to be like a great boost for you guys and getting back into it, and they just seemed like it was just like they outcompeted it, outwanted it. If that makes sense. But,
yeah, and like look at the schedule now. They got tonight. They're playing Tampa Bay here at 6:30. Thursday in Florida, rematch of the Stanley Cup final. Saturday in Carolina, and then they come home Tuesday to take on Anaheim. So that's 3 of the 4 games are quality teams that are going to probably in the playoff.
Going to be a tricky one there because they're defensively so stinking structured and tight. So
that's what the Oilers have got coming up. You just came back from another weekend trip to Pittsburgh. It wasn't what you expected, kind of like what the Oilers did, but it was another great trip for you to go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's become more of a formality at this point when I go to the games, is that they don't win the games. And, now after this weekend, I dropped to 0-8 this season for the games I've been to. They haven't won one time in the games, and it's crazy. It's more funny at this point when it keeps stretching that far, because I'm like, it's just crazy that I've even gotten 8 games without them winning. But no, it was a great time. It's always fun to go up there. It's a great city to be in. Pittsburgh's awesome. The people there are super nice. Great weather. Obviously now this time of year, it's starting to warm up. So it was in the 30s and 40s. Great sunny weather this weekend too. Great scenery. Walked around, took a lot of photos.
Comanche Brothers?
Twice.
Very
unique structure. That city's like, it's just constructed so much differently. You can tell it's a northeastern city. It's just a great tourism place, like just to go look and see the sights and stuff, because you don't see places like that here.
You got the 3 rivers that all come together.
Rivers, and like just the downtown area is just awesome. It's great. I went up there for 2 games this weekend. I left on Friday, came back last night. I watched him for the first time. I hadn't seen him play a divisional game at all. So this is the first time I did. I had 2 of them, Washington on Saturday and the Rangers on Sunday. So I was much looking forward to the games. Obviously, first game's back from the 4 Nations. Wasn't sure if Sid was going to play because he looked like he wasn't doing very well in the fortnight. Like he was looking like he was kind of hurt. But he said he was good to go, and he played both games. Malcolm returned back after being out for 6 games. I hadn't seen him play since I went to the Western trip because he wasn't there. He wasn't playing last time. And the Washington game, same thing as y'all this weekend, gave up 13 goals in the 2 games. So that's not very ideal.
No.
The Washington game was very, very interesting because it was very close and competitive until it wasn't within like 5 minutes. They scored first controversial kick. I thought it was a kick and goal, but they allowed it. Penguins tie the game on the power play. Then Washington strikes early in the second. And then for the first time at home, Sidney Crosby scores a goal.
Yeah.
I'm there. About time. And it was crazy because where I was sitting, I was facing, I was sitting more to the left and they were going this way. And when he shot that puck, you couldn't see it go in from our angle because Thompson was behind it or in front of it. So you couldn't see the puck. And then you see the people behind the net stand up and he's raising a stick up and you're like, oh my God. It was great on the backhand. And then Washington came back. Chikrin, I don't know if you saw that goal. He walked Vinny Desharnais on that one.
Yeah, he did.
Between his legs, and it was a beautiful goal. And then he scored another one a few minutes later off the post from the point, and then they got 2 quick ones right after that. After that 4-2 goal, they scored 10 seconds later off the face-off, 5-2, and then 6-2, go to the third, score on the power play. Then Heinen scored his first back in Pittsburgh, 7-3, and then they piled on another one to make it 8-3 on the breakaway. Problem was the goaltending in that game. Penguins had a big shot advantage in this game. At one point, I think it was maybe 20-9 at one point in their shots, and they were tied. And it's okay, tied at 2. That's not going to get you anywhere at that point doing that. And just one of those games, it was literally within 5 minutes of game time. It changed. Yeah. It was tied, and then they were down 4. That's how quick it was. But they didn't play bad. They really didn't play a bad game. I didn't feel like defensively they were that bad. Their goalies weren't saving anything. They just couldn't do it. But those games are going to happen. However, I will say the only thing I was somewhat happy about, Ovechkin wasn't on the score sheet at all somehow in that game with 8 goals that they scored. He wasn't on the sheet once.
He saved it for Edmonton the next day.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that rough game for sure. But those games are going to happen. You just don't like to see the 8 being put on you.
No.
Then they head to the next game against the Rangers, which was going to be such an interesting game because same thing the night before on that Saturday, Rangers give up 8 in Buffalo. So both teams are coming off of giving up 8 goals. And you're wondering, what kind of game is this going to be? I figured Quick was going to start because Shesterkin started in Buffalo. And Shesterkin ended up starting in Pittsburgh too. So I honestly thought this was going to be a goal fest because I figured he was rattled. I didn't know what the Penguins were going to play like after losing so bad. And they played awesome. On the best game I think I've ever seen them play. They were all over it from the very beginning. One point shots were 30-9 in this game. And at that point, 30-9, they're down 2-1. 2-1. Yeah. It's they got Malkin got a PPG in there. So they got a power play goal in both games, which was cool. Or sorry, no. That was actually not the power play. It was a 5-on-5. But then the Rangers score late in the first on the power play, actually in the last minute, tie the game. They go all the way through the second. They're down to last 2 minutes, and JT Miller on a 2-on-1 scored, and it's 2-1. And again, 30-9 are the shots, and it's you got to be kidding me. I couldn't believe it. Some of the saves that shots that just weren't going in, And then we had lost Grizzlick that game because he got hit from behind by Rempe. Was I didn't like that play very much.
I don't know how Rempe is a player in the NHL.
No, and I get there's a big size differential, but he labeled his head into the boards.
It was, I don't even want to go into it.
They called it a 5-minute major, and then they reversed it to a 2-minute interference penalty, which wasn't to the appeal or to very much happiness for the Panthers.
No,
they were booing that play because it looked kind of dirty, but the Penguins had a great power play there, and they just couldn't get it by Shesterkin. Then they go to the third period, and Ryan Shea, who's a young defenseman, I'm personally not really a big fan of his because he just defensive liability. He's young, he's got to learn, but he just hasn't been that consistent. Coming into this game, he has 1 goal in his NHL career, and he triples his career goal total in the third period, scores 2 goals. First one was crazy because you have 2 minutes, or no, actually less than a minute into the third. Sid and Will Cooley are going at it, going to the bench, cross-checking each other. Then Sid's going off the bench. Then Achari jumps off the bench, and he starts going towards Cooley, and they're going at it at the Ranger bench. I figured they're going to stop play. They don't. Let it go. Carlson drags it in, gives it to Malkin. Malkin passes up to the point. Shea that's just driving down and like sniped it over Shesterkin's glove, and they scored. It's like, wow, like great energy. You felt this momentum shift in there. Then a couple minutes later, Kevin Hayes set up Sid for that I thought should have been a shot, but he tried passing it to Raquel in the corner and it didn't connect. So it deflected off the corner boards. And then Shea coming on the ice again, just gets to the zone in time and just fires the puck at the net. And there's nobody in front, by the way. It's just Keandre Miller. So I figured Shesterkin saving it. Well, he tried moving out of the way and he got in the way, hits his pants and goes in the goal. And it's like, wow, like, you jump out of your seat and then, a few minutes later, the Rangers scored a couple and got an empty netter. So 5-3. So yeah, 0 for 8 on this season for me so far. But the more losses they get, the more determined it makes me just see them win a game.
Well, you've got maybe a couple more
chances. But, I mentioned it on my post on Facebook. Nonetheless, just a great opportunity to get to go out there and travel. Yeah. As much as I get to, I've gone to 3 different hockey trips in the last 4 months already to go watch the Penguins play. And it's like, it's a great opportunity. It's what I love to do. Also, this weekend was pretty cool. I got to see the big 3 all score a goal, which is pretty cool in 2 games that all 3 of them do get on the score and get a goal. Nonetheless, great time. Another thing I've noticed too, I've never seen them score more than 3 goals in a game. That's the magic number is 3. They just can't get past it. But no, it was a great time. The games were very entertaining. I will say they weren't snooze fest games. Even the Washington one, they had compete and fight in them, and they played really well. Just goaltending is a big problem for them right now. It seems like no matter if it's Ned, Jari, Blomqvist, they can't keep the puck out of the net. They're the worst team at, like, they've gotten the most goals scored on them. At this point, there's 20, 22, 23 games left for us now. I mean, I don't like to be negative, Nancy, but we're not going to be getting in the playoffs this year. Just too far behind. They'd basically have to win out at this point to have a good chance.
Because then everybody else has to.
Yeah, but I mean, they have a lot of picks this next draft. They also have New York's pick, which they can be a top 13 protected if the Rangers finish 13th or lower in the league standings. So, but nonetheless, these games are still going to be important for them to see where they land. They'll have some draft picks. I expect them to make some moves, maybe bring in some younger guys that are ready to go. But yeah, we'll see what they do. They've got a couple more divisional games this week. They're finishing a stretch of 7 in a row. They play tonight in Philadelphia, and then they come back home on Thursday in Philadelphia, and then another weekend back-to-back, Saturday, Boston, and then Sunday against Toronto. So I'm still excited to watch these games. It's still fun to watch them play. They're meaningful games for the fans to watch and see these 3 still going at it. I'm just kind of excited for the reset button to be pushed for next year. I think, get off to a better start. Goaltending needs to be shored up. Figure something out with that.
You look at, Washington barely made the playoffs last year. They shouldn't have made the playoffs. And look at them now. They made the right moves. They made the right moves. And,
other than Ovi, they don't really have any like big gun stars in that team, but they're all just playing together. And goaltending, I mean, Thompson never had a season like he just is having right now, where he's just unbeatable. Yeah, I mean, I got to see 2 great teams as well play against them, Washington, New York Rangers, 2 popular teams. Ovechkin, finally got to see him play in person, which was cool. Yeah, great weekend overall. Had a fun time. Can't wait to go back. Most likely, I'm going to try to maybe go back at the end of the season for the last game when the Penguins play the Washington Capitals again, because there could be history made that game, or if not, it's either way, it's going to be the last game of the season. So, but I'm sorry that they went and he kicked the crap out of y'all that next day.
Yeah, he did. 3 goals, hat trick. Speaking of Ovi, he is now 13 away after the hat trick against the Oilers. So he is at 882, 13 away from Gretzky. He's got, including tonight,
16
against Calgary, 25 games left, including tonight against Calgary.
Not 25.
That's what I think. That's what
is it 20?
Yeah, because they're at 50. Right. Yeah, so it's so he's got 25 games. He's got to get 13 goals. Now I figure, and this is just me. You can give your opinion on it, Carr. If he needs, I think, 3 multiple goal games to have a chance at getting the 13 by the end of the season.
So, but I mean, at this point too, anytime like they're pulling the goalies out,
he's going to be on the ice,
which I think was pretty cool by Edmonton to do what they did. I know it's not in the purpose of letting him score, but to be down like that, I didn't think honestly they stood a chance with the way they were playing to tie it,
because it was 6-3
at
the time.
And I could see more teams doing that as it gets closer, where they'll
because
give them the chance.
They want to see history happen. This is something that when I was growing up and Gretzky got the record, nobody ever thought that this was going to be broken. Nobody in the world
makes me wonder at this point
broken.
now if he could. I know it's a big reach, but if he could get to 1,000 career goals. I mean, I know he's older. He's peaking in his age. He'd be
close to 900 this year.
He could get close.
He could get close. He could be probably the closest.
Obviously, he's still in great shape, and he's playing the way he is. So,
well, look at Jaromir Jagr. He's even though Jarmir's playing, he's playing professional hockey and still being very productive. So the OV watch is going to be on from now on.
They need to put the caps on a lot of national games.
Yeah.
Once he gets maybe like five left, give or take, I think that they need to be on national every time, because you're gonna see something.
Because it would be nice though if he did it in Pittsburgh.
No, I agree. It
would be nice if he did it in Pittsburgh, just because of the Sid OV connection that's always been there.
Which would be cool, because I mean, he's been on the other side of Sid.
Well,
he's been on the other side of.
There's a reason why I asked Carson to get me that, because it was from the Washington game, because this could be the season.
Yeah, and
that OV.
And it'd be cool if he did it in Pittsburgh, because you know what, I will say, out of all the times, the Penguins beat the Capitals a lot, until the
Capitals were terrible for a lot of years.
The Penguins, basically any road to the Stanley Cup for them went through Washington, and they always beat Washington. And he was on the other side of watching Sid and them get on, and finally they broke through, won the cup. So it'd be cool. I mean, you can't tell me Sid wouldn't be happy to see him break the record in PPG Paints Arena, but I've also seen somebody else say that it'd be cool if he did it in Columbus, because that's where he scored his first goal, and there's on the last part of the schedule for them too. OV Watch is coming up, 13 goals left. Going to be great for the league when he breaks it. I'm excited to see the reaction from everybody when he does, but still a ways to go. He's probably going to get into the teens of games where he's going to get that. But so other news that's kind of going on before we kind of wrap up everything. Today it was revealed Andrew Kopp's out for the rest of the season after he pectoral muscle tear. Sucks for the Red Wings. He's a great depth piece. They're going to miss him having him in line,
especially when they're on the
they're on the climb, and they're in one of the teams that are going to be fighting for a spot. Let's see, Kachuk's out for a while. Matthews don't know if he's going to play this season. Actually, they don't know.
I saw the Brady thing that he's going to, but I didn't that he may not play.
Matthew may be, but it'd be interesting to see if the Panthers take advantage of, like, if he goes in LTR because he can't play. So
legitimately on LITR,
and it's true, because he didn't play in the Four Nations.
Yeah, he didn't play.
He played as much as he could, and after like the first period in the game, he's like, in the finals, I can't do this.
Well, actually, he didn't play against Sweden, and I think he got hurt in the Canadian game, and then he didn't play in the third period. So some injuries, and also the Stadium Series is Saturday in Columbus.
That's actually going to be a very big game, because both teams are really fighting for a playoff spot. I think I saw somewhere, I want to say it's for Zach Werenski. He's on like a 23-game point home point streak, which is crazy from a defenseman. But this game's actually going to be very good, because both teams are really fighting for a playoff spot. So it's honestly, I'm excited to watch that game.
And it's in the Horseshoe. It's Ohio State University Stadium holds about 100,000 people.
There's
football.
Not a team that deserves this kind of game more than Columbus does, though. Especially the season they're having. They're playing really great. Some great stuff that happened with Johnny's son. Yeah,
it was his first birthday a few days ago, and the captain of the Blue Jackets, he came and he dressed up as a duck.
Yeah.
And sang it at his birthday party.
The game the Jackets were playing against the Blackhawks right after the NHL came back, that the family was there for the game, like his wife and his kids and Johnny Jr.'s first birthday, and the whole crowd sang him happy birthday during the game. And even the Blackhawks fans that were there participated, despite the fact that the Hawks were down like 4 goals at this point. They're still participating in the arena, saying it loud and proud for his birthday. And, for a kid, okay, he doesn't know what's going on, but it's cool to see the community come together. And, I've always liked Boone Jenner, but that increases your respect level because, it's fun. You're going there dressed up as Donald Duck. It's going to be funny. People are going to laugh at you and stuff, but like he's
doing it for him, for little Johnny. No, I think
I'm excited.
Young Johnny will know what his dad meant to the game, not just to Columbus, not just to Calgary, but to the game, to the NHL. And
there's not a team that deserves the success you're seeing more than the
Jackets. I'm excited to see the Stadium Series too. Although I think the Oilers play at the same time on Saturday. Yeah, so I'll have to go back and forth. But no, it's going to be good. It's the Stadium Series, Ohio State University.
Two teams that have been on the come up now, and the Red Wings, obviously the Red Wings, they've been playing really well since ironically they hired your old boy McClellan. They've been playing out of their butts. We covered it. Our teams suck at goaltending right now.
Right now, yes, I do.
What's going on?
I want to just thank Doug Rose and Arden for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks.
You can join us as well every Tuesday. We're going to say about 6:00.
Yeah.
Just to be safe, because
traffic in
San Antonio is not the greatest at this time of the day. And Carson has to come all the way from one side of the city to the other. So we're going to say 6:00 Tuesday nights, Central Time.
Tuesday.
It's the proper way of saying it.
Thank
you. We'll do that, and it'll be available. This is going to be available on Facebook here in just a few minutes. As soon as it wraps up, it'll be available to watch. It'll be available tomorrow on the Refocused Radio Network on the Best Boys Center Ice podcast. Also on Spreaker.com, be available tomorrow. And I do post game on TikTok. Carson sometimes does on Facebook, but you can watch us there. You can get us on our personal feeds on Facebook because we're always posting a lot of stuff, and we'd love to hear from you and what you think. So that's going to wrap things up. This guy's got to go bowl. I got to go get things ready and finish things here and get the podcast up and going. So in the meantime, and in between time, go Canada, go. Everybody, have a great hockey night. Well, yes, I love my hats.